Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, The Sarthak Show, where we discuss about tech, career, product, and life. And in this career part, we are going to have a podcast with Medhavi. She is working as a risk analyst at AMEX. We are going to understand a lot of different things about this domain and about AMEX as well. You will learn more about things like what are the expectations of job, what does this profile actually mean, what is a typical interview process might look like, and some bit about AMEX as well, what's the work culture and everything. So thank you so much for joining in for this podcast, and thank you so much, Vedavi, for taking out time for especially for this podcast from your busy schedule and everything. Would love to know more about you and go through the journey together.
Hey, thank you, Sarthak. Thank you so much. Happy to be here. So, I joined IIT Roorkee in 2017 to pursue my Bachelor's of Architecture. During my college time, I got exposed to data science and data analytics. So, I started pursuing that field. Then, I did a few internships and then I got a placement offer from American Express in my final year.
Yeah, a very wonderful and sweet journey. I think moving from a B arc position and moving towards the IT role of it when you started understanding data science, machine learning, and moving towards this role. So my question would be a two-part question in that sense. How did you get that interest or this feel that I should move into data science or I should learn about data science and like explore that field? And secondly, how it translates toward your current position of a risk analyst?
Bringing on to how I transitioned from architecture to data science is mainly because one, when you see architecture as a profession, you have two options. One is to build your own firm, and second is to go in and work for someone. So when you go and work for someone, there is like the job is not very high paying. And secondly, job requires a lot of effort from your side in the sense that there's no work life balance,
Mhm.
so that is not a kind of job that I wanted to be a part of. So I looked for alternate fields. Within college, there's a lot of exposure you get. There are a lot of fields that you can explore in college. So I feel that college is a time to explore. So I started doing that and got into data science. I mainly did it through a few internships and courses.
Yeah, I think it makes sense because, and that's the recommendation that I have received, and I would want to give that college is your best time to explore different things.
Yeah,
Exactly.
totally agree.
That's your personal sandbox and playground. You can play out with different things, you can learn different things, and you can explore.
Hmm.
Once you are out in the field, you are on your own, and you might have to confine to one stick. It's like much harder than. So
It's much harder also because there's a lot of opportunity cost associated.
correct, and and again with cost and there is a risk also involved. You might have to leave your job or you might have to do a different set of things parallelly. But in college, it's I think it's the best time, and certainly as interact with different people, you get to know different things. You learn from them. You get some exposure from their side. So yeah, that happens as well. And then my question to you, Medhavi, would be around how this translated towards your risk analyst position. Like how do you got to know about it, or how did you apply? Is it via referral, or did a recruiter reached out to you, or you just applied on the career page? How was that journey?
So, for me, since I am a campus hire, the process went through the placement cell of our college. But otherwise, to my knowledge, American Express also has a good hiring from laterally. Specifically, if I tell you, a lot of hiring converts happen through referrals. So, if within a few days or within a few weeks, they do call for people if they have a referral.
So referral would be a good way if you want to move into
Hmm.
this position, right?
Yeah.
And like taking a slight detour and just to give the context, because a lot of viewers might not be aware what this profile actually means. So what does actually risk analyst means, or what is the job profile is? So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I'll explain through an example. So let's say you make a transaction at using an American Express card. So
Mhm.
when you swipe that card, your transaction might get approved or declined
Okay.
based on how much risk you possess to American Express, the
Okay.
risk of losses. So, as a job of a risk analyst, it is my responsibility to lay out the strategies and the models based on which the it would be decided whether you are a risky enough customer or not. So, whether your transaction should be declined or approved, it depends on the strategies and the scores that we kind of predict.
So a very interesting profile. I think you get to assign a number to an individual, which will assign which will work as a metric that is this person good enough to move to ahead with the transaction, or should I decline it? Right, makes sense, totally makes sense. Moving towards the very next part of it. So how actually like this profile works, like it is how much of a overlap from a business analyst or product analyst profile, or is it a very different profile altogether, or how much of the part is involved with the analyst profile? Yeah.
As a risk analyst profile, so there are 2 to 3 aspects to it. One is the strategy aspect, and one is the modeling aspect to it. The strategy aspect is more related to associated to the business side, on how you understand the markets, how you understand their nuances, and how you try to capture those nuances and make sure that the losses are minimized. And the other aspect is modeling aspect. It is more of so American Express majorly leverages data to carry out its operations. So the second aspect is how so the modeling team works on how they leverage the data to carry out those strategies. So to implement those strategies, how we leverage data, that is what modeling team works. So
Okay.
all this comes into the realm of risk. So yeah.
Understood. So there are multiple teams out there, but what kind of work that you will be actually doing is dependent on the team, and that is how that team is designated to work.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense. Yeah. Moving towards this, our question lineup. Wanted to understand like how's the interview process look like? How many rounds are there? What kind of questions are asked?
So when we talk about campus hiring, in campus hiring, there are 3 rounds. One is the aptitude test. So within the aptitude test, there are 3 sections. The first section is basic aptitude. So it includes data interpretation and logical reasoning along with quantitative ability. So these are the ones that are parallel to CAT examination.
Okay.
And the data interpretation is quite high level, maybe slightly higher than what CAT asks. But the perk is that these questions are a lot repetitive. From several years, these questions have been repeating.
Okay.
Then the second section, that is machine learning. So they ask machine learning, and the third section is a case study.
Okay.
So you can attempt either of the sections, but however, so it's like section B and section C are optional.
Okay.
You have to attempt either one of them. If you attempt machine learning, for the machine learning section, I would say there's this course in data science, machine learning with Andrew NG. So that course is very like sufficient for attempting that particular section of machine learning.
Okay.
And for case study, it involves, so it's like there are a set of questions, and you can open those questions, you can find answers to those questions,
Right.
but you don't know what you have to predict. So there is a question like, let's say that the why are the profits of the company reducing? Okay.
Okay.
So you have to find the answer to that,
Okay.
but you won't know the question beforehand. You would know, like I would ask, what have the sales reduced, has the revenue reduced, or there would be set of complementary questions
Okay.
based on which you can answer the original question. And you can open only a limited number of those questions, and once you see the actual question, you cannot go back to those questions. So the aim is to get comprehensive understanding of the company or the situation, the complementary questions itself.
Okay.
And once you know the exact question, you have to find out the answer from whatever you have already tried to gain a view of.
Okay. Makes sense.
So the section B and section C are you have to attempt one of them, but it's good if you attempt both of them.
Oh, acha.
So I have observed a higher success rate if you have attempted both the sets, both B and C. And after that, you qualify for the interview rounds that are held in November, first week of December, as per our college policy.
Okay.
So there we get, they have 2 rounds. These are very crisp, very concise, and they ask us. So the first round is mainly about your resume. They scrutinize your resume to the every bit. So you must be sure of whatever is coming out of your mouth. You should know each and everything about it.
Right.
Otherwise, they'll scrutinize you on that only. And apart from that, they go for your resume, each and every project. They would go into each and every detail of the project. Then there are puzzles. So there are a set of 100 puzzles on Geeks for Geeks. Those are very repetitive. So if we think from the point of view of the recruiter, they are also coming to the so they do not have the time to prepare for aptitude. So there is a set of 100 puzzles on Geeks for Geeks, and that they are always repetitive, and a bit of business acumen, very basic. So that is more of common sense.
Okay.
And your performance based on these two aspects would define on which into which business vertical you would be recruited, or which business team you would be recruited.
Oh, okay. Mapping
So
will be done on that. Okay.
yeah, so American Express does not only hire for risk analysts, they also hire for product managers and all those things, in terms of which team you are based on how you perform in the interview.
Right.
And one thing about American Express is that they do not make it necessary for you to know how to code.
Right.
So my profile of risk analyst has been a spin-off because I knew data analytics, I knew machine learning, and I had studied that part.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think a very interesting procedure over there, and certainly it's rare that you get to see a section which are optionals by nature in the exam itself. But it's for the audience to find out what are their strengths. If machine learning or case study makes their strength, or both of them are their strengths, then they want to play it out accordingly. And I think yes, the resume is also round is also focused on scrutinizing every last detail that you have mentioned in your own resume. You have created it, so you should be aware of every last detail. Don't try to play out the recruiter or the interviewer because they are very much experienced and very much aware of these things.
Two things I want to add is, one is that they also ask about a lot of hygiene questions. Their hygiene HR questions are indispensable. And secondly, when we talk of American Express hiring laterally, I have observed that they do not take the aptitude section. They directly take go for the interview rounds.
Okay, so there is a difference between if you apply laterally and you might have a different kind of interview experience and different kind of questionnaire. So take this information with a pinch of salt and apply it accordingly, because over the years things change and processes reform. So I think it very well explains how you have to work and understand what's a risk analyst, and how you perform in those interviews is how you're going to decide which team will you be mapped to, what kind of work you will be doing. So yeah, it's a two-part interview process if you look carefully, because how you perform is going to get you answer to if you will get shortlisted or not, or if you will get selected or not. And secondly, what team you will be working for. If you have performed very well, exceptionally well, you will be performing for one of the best teams, right? So that's I think the stakes are higher if you are interviewing for AMEX. And moving on, I think you cleared it, so congratulations to you. But wanted to understand on the part, how did you prepare for these interview round? Like what was your strategy, what was your fundas, and what were the resources that you used?
So while I was preparing for my placements, so I had shortlisted all the profiles that I am going to apply for. So these included mainly the profiles that were of analysts. So these might be product analysts or business analyst or risk analyst, any these kind of profiles. So this was based on mainly what they asked during their tests and interviews.
Right.
So most of these companies, they ask for aptitude for the tests, and then interviews include your resume, puzzles, and case interviews. So I had prepared for these specifically, these three things. For aptitude, I had started following CAT, because the level of aptitude they ask in placements is very comparable to that of CAT.
Correct.
So I had started following that. So most of my placement exams, tests got cleared with aptitude. Secondly, for cases, we formed groups within our peer groups and practice cases. So we simulated the interview process. Like, for example, I would simulate a case for you, and I would be the interviewer for another person who would be solving the case in an environment that would be very similar to how actual interview. So this actually helped us build a comfort level with getting interviewed,
Right.
be it any kind of interview.
Yeah, mock interviews
So,
make sense, right?
so yeah, that was it. And yeah, rest is resume. So you have already done your resume and everything on your resume. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think then one of the tips that you get is if you are preparing for CAT, there is a good overlap of the questions that you might get on
Hmm.
aptitude side of it. So it's all for one of the purposes that you're going to do. If not, then you are going to prepare for aptitude as in. The second that as a very big information is that how do you perceive those questions and how quickly do you solve them in the best way possible way, right? So you have to understand, and I think you need to have that comfort level. And one of the ways that Minavi suggested and like very approved one, and I also use it, is mock interviews. How do you actually mimic a kind of a situation where there is an interviewer who is asking the questions? And the best part is generally, interviewer might not give you your shortcomings or the things that you did wrong, but in the mock interview, the other person is expected to give you details that you could have done this in this way, or this is your strength, this is your weakness, play it out in this way. So go for it, apply for the
This also helps in a way that you yourself also get into the shoes of the interviewer. So you know what you would be expecting from the other person. So try to understand things from the point of view of an interviewer.
right, totally makes sense.
Mm.
So since you are in their shoes, you will get
Mm.
like why this answer makes sense or not, why this answer was framed in this way, is this candidate doing the right job or not? So yeah, it's a good way, it's a two-way job, and you both excel in their world. Yeah, moving forward, I want to understand then, once you did all this procedure, you got the call, you got the confirmation letter, joining letter, everything, and you joined the company, voila. So how is the experience at MX looks like? How's your typical day at MX look like?
Okay, I'll go from the start. So when you join American Express, they really treat you like kids. They think that you are very new, you are still learning process. So they give you a lot of time to adjust, understand things. They provide with you with the necessary trainings, and they initially don't burden you with a project. So there's a lot of time to understand, adjust things, and gradually you move to smaller exercise. They give you brief exercises and like small projects, or not exactly projects but small simple exercises.
Okay.
And then you gradually move to, along with those small exercises, you get a lot of training of how your team works, what is the responsibility of your team, what are the nuances associated to your team, all those understandings. And then you move to your actual project.
Okay.
So, as a risk analyst, so I am currently working with the payments team at American Express.
Mhm.
So in the credit and fraud risk department, CFR department, so there are a lot of things that are associated with payments team. So how the payments come. So one basic would be how payments are conducted in each and every market
Right.
in the world.
Mhm.
So understanding those things and how American Express handles those payments and what are the various aspects that we need to make sure that those payments are not fraud.
Mhm.
So initially I tried to learn all those things, and then I was moved to a project to understand the strategies associated with it and all those things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it makes sense that once you join the company, it takes a time to onboard the person, understand the processes. Ramp up period is required, and I think very beautifully that you explained that MX helps you in that ramp up process very gradual way. It's not like they burden like a shit ton of load on the first day, and
Hmm.
you have to perform that, or you will get fired. It's not that kind of a pressure. Since you joined and you have to do some things, you have to learn, and it should be a gradual process so that you can get to the depth of the learning part. Totally makes sense, and I think kudos to MX team for doing that, keeping that as a standard. So once you do that, how's your work in general affects like how's the work-life balance, or what are the perks that you get as an MX employee, or what are the additional advantages that you like most about the MX?
So AMEX is actually very famous for their work culture.
Mm-hmm.
You are not pressurized with anything. You can set your own goals. You can have your own career path that you want to pursue. So you can change your career path. And
Correct.
the leaders are meant to be, they're supposed to be supportive in that. They
Mm-hmm.
cannot force you to work within the particular team that they are responsible for. That is one thing that, so basically it's work life balance and your career development. So these two things are really fostered at American Express. And apart from that perks, the main perk is that you can get an American Express card easily without any conditions. And I think there is a waiving of the yearly membership fees that they have. So you kind of, as an employee, you get a refund on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best perks. If you are applying for Amex card and you are getting rejected, apply for the job. You might get a card, and that too free of cost.
And apart from that, AMEX is also offering like fully virtual tenure.
Mhm.
So this is actually people are opting for a completely virtual work environment. This is helping, especially people who cannot, relocate, or they have family commitments or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense if you have that complete hybrid culture where you can do fully work
Mm.
from home, and since companies are doing it, I think it makes a good addition at the list of perks.
So
Uh,
there's a lot of flexibility associated. You can choose the way you want to work, the way you want to carry out things. So they just don't want you to be like disrespect the culture.
mhm,
They just want that you deliver results.
right.
You deliver, and that too, you don't have to do exceptionally well. It's like you deliver what is the bare minimum needed, and
Mhm.
still you can go about it. So yeah.
Yeah, understood, totally understood. And I think what they have inculcated is that you follow the culture of the company, which is like having good work-life balance, not getting too much pressure, not passing on too much pressure to the
Hmm.
juniors, and focusing on the good aspects of it, your health and your work-life balance. And as you mentioned, the work from home for a lot of
Hmm.
people, which makes sense because they are not able to relocate or they have family commitments and everything. So yeah, all in all, it's a good company, and it's a plus mark that if you want and if you are
Hmm.
looking for a job, go for it, apply for Amex. I think it will be very, very helpful for you guys. I think by this we move towards the end of the podcast. Thank you so much, Madhavi, for sharing all of these details in such a beautiful way. I think most of the viewers and audience will be get the gist out of it, and it will be really, really helpful for them. And I personally got to know a lot about this profile and understood how things function at Amex as well. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of these details with us.
Thank you, Sarthak.
Yeah, and all the audience who are looking in, please share this video with your friends and everything who are interested in this kind of a profile. Comment down below if you want to bring about our new career perspective, a new guest on this channel. And till then, take care. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.